Welcome everyone. Here we are as part of the Levim Art Gallery interview series. Today we have the honor and pleasure of having the founder of the Basil Group, also known, to me at least, as a person that reformed and innovated and brought super high innovation and quality to kosher food, specifically to Crown Heights and perhaps arguably the whole North America. So we'll see.
Thank you.
Actually, the funny thing is our art gallery opened. One of the reasons why we opened right across the street from Basil, it used to be literally right across the street, is to capture all that momentum and traffic, and it really worked out well for us. And here we are 4 years later, still across the street from Basil. We can't get away.
That's great.
Danny, what's the history of behind your innovation here in food? Have you been trained in food, anything like that?
Well, I have passion school. That's the most important thing. No, actually not. But my father is a Baal Tshuva. I don't know if you know, people do. And my mother married a normal guy, and all of a sudden he became a little different. And she studied. She was very curious. What is it all about? She studied a lot because she was an intellectual. She wanted to understand. She didn't just reject it. And one of the things that bothered her by studying everything is to understand why kosher food, among other things, why does it have to be disgusting? I mean, it's not sourced anywhere. And it isn't. It just, unfortunately, a lot of people take advantage of the fact that you have to eat kosher will feed you anything. So that's one thing. And plus, she explored. We traveled all over. Wherever we traveled, she would cook. She'd pick up the local cuisine. We'd travel to Georgia or Russia. Gruzini food. She was a medical doctor. She worked with Moroccan nurses in Beersheba in the Soroka Medical Center. She'd pick up Moroccan cooking. She would be a Israeli health department doctor, pediatrician in a lot of Arab villages. She'd pick up Arab cooking. So by us, cooking was a big part of the of our household. And then the fact that she was always troubled why kosher food can't be good probably penetrated. And I think that's the underlying cause of me doing this.
So you grew up with an appreciation for quality and experiential, is that the right word? Experiential food, so you're comfortable exploring other cuisines and pushing the envelope a little.
Absolutely. And then we came here from Israel, and it really bothered me. How come there's really nothing here? You can't have a decent coffee, you can't have a decent croissant. So this
People
came
don't
about.
realize, before Crown Heights anything, I say 50% of the stores on Kingston Avenue didn't have a sign altogether. Everyone just knew where the grocery was.
That's
Everyone
right.
knew where that guy is. So from...
What was that on Empire Boulevard? There was like this grocery till today. I think there's no sign, right?
Correct.
Klein's or whatever it's called.
Klein's.
Right.
Klein's never had a sign. The glasses store never had a sign. The whole idea of having a sign in a store is a new invention, as the whole Crown Heights.
And the trendiness today is not Tovis, it's back. It's the retro.
Correct.
You know, there's a lot of hotels don't have a sign. I think there's like a couple of hotels in New York, like the Boutique Hotel. I think there's a Royalton Hotel. You know, they want the Ian Schrager Hotel. No signs.
So Crown Heights was ahead of its time.
It just was a little bit ahead of the time with not such trendy inside, but it's okay.
So you grew up with this appreciation for high quality and different great food. How did that translate into your first restaurant here at Basil that clearly changed the whole Crown Heights?
So everything we believe in is Gocha Protis, right? So I had a partner back then that rented the store. He wanted to do a hardware store over there. And he came to me and he said, look, what do you think about it? I said, I think it's a terrible idea, because how are you going to do a hardware store? You're going to compete with Home Depot and, 1,000 square feet in Crown Heights? Really? He said, so what are we going to do about it? I said, what do you mean? Do nothing. I said, but I rented the store. I got a real good deal. I said, rented good deal for what? So he says, well, the plumber that I have says that there's no real good pizza shop in Crown Heights. Maybe open a pizza shop. I said, pizza shop sounds more like it. Go right ahead. He says, no, but would you be a part of it? I said, me? How am I going to be a part of it? He said, well, you know how to do things nice, we want something nicer. I said, and then it clicked. I said, yeah, I always had it in the back of my mind. There's nothing there. I would like to really do something nice and kosher. I said, well, but it's a whole different extreme to what you want to do. It's going to be, we're going to do a pizza shop. It's going to be a whole different pizza shop. Are you okay? Well, way behind you 100%. I said, no. Behind me means you're going to be backseat driver with a partition. You can't say, you can't even express your thoughts. And that's what happened. And I said, you know what? We're going to do because to me, I wanted to do always a dairy place because there's no morning. You're going to start your morning with a coffee and a croissant, like I said, which was lacking. So we're going to do a dairy. You know what? We're going to do pizza and wine because pizza and wine is a great combination. So we're going to do, artisanal pizzas, wood burning oven, etc. That's how the whole thing started. And then it evolved into a whole different thing. Then I met a chef that wanted to do a little more than that. Met a chef which was a non-kosher chef, became kosher. He was in New Jersey, he's next to my office in New Jersey, and he said, bring me to New York, we're going to do a whole different thing. So that's how the whole thing started.
Nice. Who was the first chef?
Moshe Wendell.
You said Jewish or not Jewish?
No, he was Jewish.
He's Jewish, oh.
He was non-kosher. Very funny story. He was
How'd you bump into him?
He was hired when he became, so he was a chef in Philadelphia, non-kosher, trendy restaurant, few restaurants. And then at a certain point in his life, he lost his taste bud. He couldn't taste anything, literally. And he's a chef. He doesn't have taste in his mouth. That's not very good for a chef. And he's sitting at his couch one day and he says, God, there's this famous joke about the lawyer who just graduated and gets his first huge case. He has to go to court and he goes, he's got to be 9 o'clock in court, and he goes and he's looking for a parking spot. It's 8:30. All the parking lots are full. Streets, nothing. He's desperate, and it's his biggest first case. And he says, God, please, if you could find me a parking spot, I'll keep kosher, I'll keep Shabbos, everything. 2 seconds later, somebody pulls out of a totally legal spot. He says, that's okay, I just found one. So same thing, Moshe is sitting on the couch and he says, God, if you could bring me my taste buds back, I'll become religious. Sure enough, he says, the next morning, his taste buds are back. Literally. And he became religious. And now what is he gonna do? So he was looking for a job. Somehow he moved to New Jersey, I don't remember. And he finds this restaurant. There's another chef that became from, moved away, and the restaurant was dying, and he took over a little restaurant in a strip mall in New Jersey. And he became a chef, and I came to eat there because it's 2 minutes away from my office. And I see somebody knows how to cook. So he says, but I can't, take me out. I want to go to New York. Take me. Anyways, so I took him. That's how we started.
Wow. So from not being ever in the food business, right? You're not in the food business. Your main
no.
What business is your main thing?
Energy management.
Energy management. To getting thrown into a pizza restaurant. Have you ever been in any other projects besides energy? Besides this, other businesses outside your?
Yeah, I mean, throughout my life, the production companies. I do a lot of events. I like that. I like people. So yes. but not restaurant. Very different. Anybody who thinks that they like food, either to eat food or to cook food or to host people, very different from owning a restaurant. Don't recommend to go into the restaurant business.
And funny also, Clara you met through the airport, right?
So my main business is in Israel.
Right.
We have the manufacturing and R&D is all in Israel, and I'm traveling, and here's only the sales office, tech support, etc. So I'm traveling back and forth a lot. Traveling in El Al. She used to run the El Al station in Newark, then in JFK. That's how I met her. And then when we opened the restaurant, or about to open the restaurant, she just finished with after 15 years. She had a whole fallout with El Al. And she says, you're opening a restaurant. How come you're not considering me? I mean, I was taking care of you in El Al. I said, yeah, but what do you know about the food business? I said, let me tell you something. This is a kosher restaurant. I said, yeah. If I could board 450 Jews onto a plane without them killing each other, I could run a kosher restaurant. And that's how she started running the food. the restaurant.
Wow. So you decided to open the place, open the doors. Did you know what to expect? And you had any expectations? Did you think?
Well, you always hope for the best. But I have somebody who told me recently a very good line. He says, hope is not a strategy. You gotta. But we had hope. Anyways, but we opened. It was a success from day one. Really, we had lines out the door. It's phenomenal. And on top of that, we're lucky. New York Times ran a great 6-page article about it. And really, it was funny. I mean, it was in the middle of a winter. And people would drive on a Saturday night from, I don't know,
Long Island. Right? You never advertised.
All word not as a principle. We said, look, we don't want to advertise because where does it end? Everybody comes to you. Listen, I could advertise here, there. It's old word of mouth. But we had people from, I don't know, Long Island. We had people. Somebody told me they were driving every Saturday night from Pennsylvania, but it's freezing out. People were standing outside in the freezing cold.
When Izzy's when Izzy's open, they also never advertise. Izzy's Smokehouse.
Right.
So I think you also created this trend that
was not advertising. Not advertising. You don't want to advertise because it jinx it, right?
We're not going to talk about the advertisement sitting on the table, but I do notice that it's about art. So that's probably why you brought it here. Optimize your art career.
That's
anyway.
Right. Solidarity.
So, also besides your innovation of bringing high-end food to the Jewish world, you also moved outside the main part of Crown Heights. You're a block north, right?
Which is, you like to be daring. You try to be ahead of the trend, which is risky. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to everybody because sometimes it's nice to hop on. But this is pioneering. And sometimes you're ahead of your time. It happened to me in my main business as well. It took me a while because we're ahead of our times. And it happens all the time. People are ahead of their times. But there's something exciting about it.
People are afraid we're going to move to cross Eastern Parkway.
You don't think. You say, listen, let's do the right thing, and you hope. And again, it's not a strategy, but you hope, and sometimes hope works. You got to be, tracht gut wird sein gut. There's a whole. It changes reality. It's not just you making. There's the whole big philosophy behind it. That it's not just that it makes you feel good because you think positively. The thinking positively actually changes reality. That's the essence of the concept. So it did. And it moved. Listen, the fact that this place became hot, the fact that somebody just paid a whole lot of money for just having the right of renting a place because it's right here in the location. I mean, people looked at me like I'm nuts to even try to open here 10 years ago because, people were smoking crack around the corner. People wouldn't come near here.
Shooting, killing, stabbing.
Crazy.
But now that I see you venture even further north, and now you have valet parking, so you think you ventured a little too north? So you need to...
Well, again, we were ahead of our time, so I figured until the times catch up, we'll do valet and security, right?
Okay.
But and there's challenges. People challenge me.
Because you didn't start with valet.
No, we figured no big deal. But somebody said, you better have valet because people are not very comfortable. So we have valet now.
You're a little realistic as well.
I gotta listen. We gotta pay payroll. We can't just be all very, artsy.
What's your biggest pleasure in your restaurant?
I'll tell you, in the new restaurant just recently.
Right. So it's new for
I
you.
had in the meat restaurant.
Yeah.
We had a guy who came with a non-Jewish guy, and he's sitting there, and I knew the non-Jewish guy is a politician local here who's trying to push a lot of actually good ideas. And he says, I'd like you to meet my friend. I happened to walk into the restaurant. He says, he's a lawyer. He's Jewish, not kosher at all. And the guy says, I got to talk to you. He says, when I was growing up, I was Jewish. I was proudly Jewish, but I was totally non-kosher because back then, honestly, kosher was totally garbage. And if I would have known back then that kosher food could be as good as this, I might have stayed kosher. Honest. And he posted it. It's on Yelp. I think it's on the review. And I said, and I go to Peter Luger, by the way, your steak puts them to shame, for instance. And he posted it. He went on his own. No, that's the lawyer that came with him. No, the politician will say anything. No. He happens to be a good politician. But no, politician will know that this is a lawyer. He says, I have no agendas, right? I just want to tell you the way it is. And he posted it. I couldn't post it. It's on Yelp.
So your biggest pleasure is when people appreciate it and they see kosher could be that.
Somebody would stay kosher because the offering is there, the options are there. That's the biggest thing. I mean,
I recently meeting with who I met, Mati Zelis from Chabad.org, and
Right.
he said, I told him, by the way, we're talking about different, he's in media, so I saw him actually interviewing Danny he said, make sure to read the article of the Rebbe's involvement of the purple kosher, the purple cookbook, that the Sheikh Chabad made.
right.
That the Rebbe was very involved.
It's a good
and
cookbook,
pushed.
by the way.
Yeah.
Because I know my wife, my daughters use it all the time, so it's got to be good.
But the Rebbe pushed to have it. It was, I guess, during the time of mitzvah kashrus, pushing people to keep kosher. And the Rebbe said, if there's a good cookbook out there, it'll be easier for people to keep kosher.
It's exactly. Listen, I Baruch Hashem, I had a lot of schus to have a lot of interaction with the Rebbe. Rebbe always, and I'm not pretending to know how to interpret everything that Rebbe wanted and Rebbe pushes, but from my limited understanding, it was always to make things nice, to make things presentable, to have Goin Yankiv, which is very important. You want to be proud of being Jewish. You don't want to hide. You don't want to be miserable.
Right.
This misery did not belong. It does not belong in the Rebbe's agenda, according to my limited understanding, at least. It has to be beautiful. It has to be nice. You have to be proud, and you have to go out and say it. So that's great. I mean, that's phenomenal.
So the day-to-day grunge is worth for the end game compliments, Danny?
I think so. I think so, because there's a lot. Let me tell you, there's a lot,
Did you ever think that your little pizza wine fancy place would change Crown Heights from being not just Chabad, not just from the Jewish Children's Museum, and to be what it is today, as Crown Heights known as a food mecca of I maybe even say the kosher world?
No, I mean, no. You don't really. You do your thing. You have hopes, and your dreams are unlimited. So it's not. No, but it's actually very nice to see that the reality outdoes your dreams.
What's very funny is as our gallery is across the street from Basil, people come from Flatbush, wherever the place is, basically saying they never thought they would ever come back to Crown Heights again in their life. They grew up here for 20 years, and they basically say they feel embarrassed almost, how did we end up back in Crown Heights? Crown Heights has something to offer. It used to be Crown Heights was the sewer, the dumping grounds. Maybe they came for Lag BaOmer parade if they're a little more religious.
So I tell you a story. It's so true. I mean, from my perspective, we lived in Israel always, and I had a neighbor who's very much not Lubavitch. And he's an English literature guy that I became friendly with. And he was here many years ago, unfortunately for whatever medical treatments, he had to spend some time in Flatbush. So I wanted to invite him to my house. I said, why don't you not say Shabbos? Why don't you come over to my house? He says, wait, to Crown Heights? He thought, literally, I said, why not? He says, I can't. I couldn't believe it because to me, my wife is from Crown Heights, what's Crown Heights? No, he wouldn't come. He would not. It took convincing for him to come. And now, I mean, he's here every time. He comes to the restaurant. He gets but it's so true. People don't understand it. Going back, this was 15 years ago. That story, literally 15 years ago, he would be shocked of me even asking him to come over to my house in Crown Heights.
So I would definitely say it's an amazing, synergy of the new places, the new restaurant, the museum, 770, all the different things, all coming together in an amazing way. To the extent that Crown Heights has a food tour now that you're a part of.
Beautiful.
That people
very
come,
nice lady.
Very nice Fern. She has a food tour. Her other tour is a Manhattan fashion tour, an Israeli whatever food, then Crown Heights food tour. Who would ever imagine? I remember, I think before Basil, there was no restaurant, because I think there was a gap between Mashiach Grill and Basil. If you would come before Basil, there's no place to sit down and actually have a waiter come over.
Right, nothing.
Now it's hard to find a restaurant that doesn't have a waiter. So the way the world really changed around.
It's unbelievable. So the moral of the story is, if you believe in it, just and if you have enough of guts, and if you dare, good things could happen.
On the more technical side, what's the usually startup of a restaurant of this caliber? Would you say $500,000 to start?
I wish.
More.
Much more.
Basil was more than $500,000.
Basil was 10 years ago when I cut a lot of corners, and my partner, that wanted to do the warehouse, it was the hardware store was a contractor actually, and Basil back then was about $1 million 10 years ago.
Was $1 million. Well,
Yeah.
that was the front and the back.
The back was a little later, but between the two, yeah.
So if you want to start a restaurant that's somewhat nice, $1 million minimum.
Absolutely.
Before you make a penny.
Before
you pay salary, everything.
Before anything, so somebody should really think hard before they do it.
So Basil's how old? 10 years old? 10 years
exactly,
old.
exactly 10 years.
Danny, how do you keep the excitement of the momentum? Every day another new restaurant opens up, another restaurant. What's the secret to keeping the excitement of the momentum of a restaurant like Basil?
Well, it's tough. Listen, it's you gotta constantly reinvent yourself, and you gotta but thank God we're doing it. I mean, we're constantly bringing new talent. We just brought a extremely talented and positive chef. He actually came over from Israel.
From me.
Well, but he's for the group. He is actually doing the group right now, and really. I mean, but it's not only the food, because it's a total experience. It's the service. It's the vibe. It's the playlist. There's so much, and you constantly. The main thing is you cannot take things for granted. You gotta constantly reinvent yourself. You gotta constantly add some new angles to it, and then you need to have some siyata d'shmaya too.
Your energy company is B2B or B2C?
It's mostly B2B, but we're hoping we have a whole new but that's a whole different interview.
So isn't it interesting to come from B2B to B2C, a whole different
Very
world?
different, much more exciting, by the way. Because
B2C is more exciting.
Sure, it's more because you have feedback. Because for me to get feedback for the end user takes years sometimes, because you don't know. You sold it to a person who is gonna then sell it to somebody. You don't have real feedback. You don't see. Here, you could come up with a dish in the morning, and in the evening you have a whole bunch of hopefully smiling people, or a whole bunch of angry people. But you see the feedback is instant. Today everything is is instant gratification. People want to see instant reaction. You see the reaction right away. It's very exciting. And I love to walk the restaurants to see the dining room, to see the reaction of the people. It's phenomenal. It's very. I miss it in the B2B, by the way. That's why I try to saying that I'm kind of eyeing the B2C in my own business, because I'd love to see the end users. I'd love to see at the end of the day who's using it. Are you happy? How happy are you? Some barometer of happiness and satisfaction.
It's funny because I own a travel agency, which is B2B mostly. We deal with businesses, and once I got into no one knew what I did. Like, oh, what do you do? Suddenly I got into open little retail art gallery. Not exactly a big fancy place. Suddenly. Oh, the gallery, Levim, the Levim Art Gallery. I'm like, okay, became a whole new. You become an existence to so many more people in volume.
So what's more exciting?
What's more exciting? The money is more exciting. B2B,
obviously,
but B2C is definitely. It's very cool to walk into someone's home and your painting is on their living room. You feel part of them.
And you'll never see this in the B2B.
No,
because you never get to see that end result. It stops there. It's like, but where is it? Where are where's the smile of the user?
And so it's I actually, before I opened the gallery, I was thinking of opening up a restaurant. So I went to Cincinnati to my friend to see his restaurant. And after 3 days there, I said, I want to entertain people without workers, without food. So that's sort of how I got into this art business. So I sort of have a restaurant.
That's a good alternative. I think it's a good alternative. But anybody, I gotta tell you one thing. Anybody who dreams of opening a restaurant, and a lot of people do. I was in the restaurant the other day, and there's a whole bunch of customers that want to talk to me, and most of them say, "Oh, we're always talking in my house Shabbos, Friday night. We even have a name. We have a concert. They have the whole thing worked out." And I always tell them, "Great book, Kitchen Confidential, Anthony Bourdain. Read the book. You'll think twice. Great book. I don't know. He writes very well. Read the book."
Hold on. We'll edit this part. I forgot I had a question. Follow up.
I could ask myself. I have a lot of questions.
Question: how do you pick the right chef? I mean, you have different options, opportunities coming your way. How do you pick the right chef or staff in general? Since you're B2C, you're interfacing the customer, and it's really a bit about the experience. The waiter was nice, it wasn't nice, he was informed, he wasn't informed.
So
how do you pick? I mean,
it's a good question, and it evolves. By the way, the decision and the process evolves as you mature. And first, you're getting very excited about people who are into their foods and how creative they are and how avant-garde they are. But as you grow older, you realize that it is important because we are trying to be always cutting edge. We don't want to do, the most modern food, etc. But at the end of the day, what's very important is to have serious people who are responsible, people who are systematic, people who are consistent, people who are serious people, because the food is important, but it's secondary. You have to have it's about systems, it's about consistency, it's about repeatability and about scalability, and that only comes through certain type of people. So before anything else, this is the kind of people you want to hire and people who you want to partner with. Everything else is secondary, and that's what people oftentimes forget is, I got this great chef, the way he or she cooks is unbelievable. What are you going to do with it?
So operational over creativity.
100%.
It's very funny, it's similar to the art business. You find great artists, but if they're too creative and too artistic, they don't want to paint today, they're not available.
And what do you do?
No. So it's all great and wonderful.
That's
but
exactly.
when the customer is waiting for his painting and it's not there, it's great that he's creative.
And I'm not saying you should be ordinary and you should give up a lot, but don't forget the practical aspects always. I had a guy who hired a pizza consultant, real McCoy, Giulio, an Italian guy who did high-end pizzas all over. He comes in and he tweaked some of the things in the pizza. He was good, documented everything. And then we had a lot of conversations. I said, Giulio, in your opinion, which is the best pizza? He says, what do you mean the best of pizza? I says, which is the best pizza? The best of pizza is Domino's. He says, Domino's? You were saying that? He says, I cannot argue with $9 billion in sales. So, at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, you don't have to, you cannot forget the pragmatic aspects of life, of business. I'm not saying you should put all your emphasis on it. You do want to keep that creative part. You do want to be different. But if this difference and this creativity comes on account of, pragmatics, it's not going to work.
So is the restaurant business for you a passion or a business?
Well, it's definitely a passion, but if it won't be a business, I noticed...
Because I know the talk on the street is, Danny Branover, he has other businesses, he doesn't need the restaurant.
No. Wrong.
It's his private dining room, he lets some people in.
But there's a much cheaper way to eat. But,
I'm just
it's a legitimate question, but I'll explain to you, and I've seen it throughout.
I'm echoing what I hear.
Good question. No, I know exactly where you're coming from.
And the question is, how long does something could lose money, and you'll say, I just love it, and therefore I'm in it.
No. But this is two separate issues.
Okay.
It has to be a business from a very different aspect than you think. I've seen a lot of kosher restaurants that opened as a service. Somebody has a big business in a certain city in Europe, for instance, and he or she says, well, we have to have a kosher restaurant because we have guests, we have a community, we're going to sponsor it. If it's not a legitimate business that could stand on its own
feet,
it never lives up to the quality as well. Somehow the quality is inferior as well. It just doesn't work. The service is not. If you sponsor, if it's like a
in Philadelphia, there was some restaurant.
Exactly.
Sponsored,
great guy.
Disappeared.
And I know the guy. And the guy came to talk to me. And he's a good guy. He means well. He could afford it. But as long as it's not viable business-wise, it's also compromised in every which way as far as the food goes, the service goes, and everything else. So in order for this passion to come true, it has to be viable on a commercial level. because it doesn't work otherwise. So now, it could take a while because not everything is instantaneous. You know, it takes time to build things up. It takes time till you tweak things. And if you give up too quickly, but it's any business. I mean, any business, there are very few businesses you open in day one, you hear stories about, a lot of stories from the Rebbe, but people came to the Rebbe and asked him, no, can't anymore. And gave advice, you got to do it this way, you got to do that. But it took a while, and then it hit. But that's a separate issue. I mean, you have to have patience, any business. But this has to be, but coming back to the restaurant question, it has to be viable business-wise, because if it doesn't, the quality is not going to be there either.
What's the best-selling dish in Basil? Was it the fries? Fries or the pizza?
No, the pizza is pizza, though, but fries is definitely a hit still. I mean, it's funny. I mean, I looked at the numbers. I was shocked. We sell like $150,000 a year in fries. I mean, it's unfortunate because I'd love it to be for more creative items.
But margins are not bad.
No, it's fine. But it's like, really fries, but it is. But it's still fries by far. And then the pizzas, and then of course, the more complex you get, the tougher it is to sell a lot of, but...
I also noticed that the other restaurants all copy your fries.
It's true. And I looked, I was shocked. Somebody just showed, because I don't look at other people's menus. I look at the menus are not the kosher restaurants around here. But we're not going to talk about that. But somebody just pointed out that they actually they're charging for it. We used to be considered expensive. I saw that we were left behind. They were like selling fries. Fries used to be like $3, right? And we sold this whole different level of fries. It was charging like $8. I see people charging $15 for fries. And it's all truffleized. They put the mayo. That's very funny. Yeah.
And what's best selling in meat?
And again, I say unfortunately, because again, we wanted to create a whole different, because everybody said, when are you opening the steakhouse? I'm not a steakhouse. It's a proper restaurant with a lot of composed dishes. Steak. Because Americans eat, no matter, you say, would you like this? Yeah, but steak.
Bakery, what's the best selling item?
Oh, by far the croissants. I mean, the viennoiserie, the croissants are, and and we have French people coming in and says, can't get it in France, it's in kosher. I mean, it's like really, really a croissant. Super. I mean,
out of the three, what brings the most people from outside of Crown Heights? Now, probably meat, Basil, or a mix?
No, the amount of people is still probably Basil. I mean, Basil is just the amount. This is huge amount of people, smaller checks. But
Bakery, I see more local people, correct? Or am I wrong with that?
And a lot of non-kosher people.
Non-kosher.
A lot, I would say, in bakery.
So out of the three, that bakery gets the most non-kosher.
Yeah, definitely.
I once heard that after Basil, you decided that you always need to own the property of the restaurant. Is that true?
True.
Tell us the background of that. I know Walmart had a similar story. Sam Walton got evicted at his first place, and then he ended up buying after that.
I'm not there yet. But...
is that a model?
Because you build a business, you put your sweat, blood, and tears into it, and then at the end of the day, you are at the mercy of the landlord. Because they're your part, they feel they're your partners, right? If business is bad, you still have to pay them the rent. If business is good, let me raise the rent to whatever they want, to a point where you have to close down, and people do. Because sometimes they overdo it, and restaurants just close because they were outpriced by the landlord. I mean, the location is everything. It's not like you could go elsewhere and automatically attract the people.
Is that why you opened up down in Bergen? Because no one else wanted to sell their buildings closer?
Well, the building, just somebody showed the building and nobody wanted to buy the building. And then everybody came to me and they said, we wanted to buy the building, but why'd you offer more money? I mean, it was like, you had the option. Everybody thought, you bought where? And as you pointed out, we still have to have valet parking, right? But it's okay. Sometimes, what somebody says in real estate, and I'm not a big real estate guy, obviously, I sell pizza. But in real estate, some very smart man told me once, you never pay too much for real estate. Sometimes you buy a little too early. So it catches up. But I know, obviously, it's like you want to have...
Do the rents cover your mortgage?
Oh yeah, no, of course, no. Because that's fine. But I'm saying, you don't want to be in this position where you have a partner which is not a legitimate partner because they don't share the risk, but they totally share the rewards.
Have you done real estate outside your restaurants, or is
No, I'm not in the real estate.
Zero.
Yeah.
So the restaurant forced you to be in real estate.
Real estate is boring.
All right. 1,000,000%. I always tell people.
Those are boring.
People tell me, Moshe, it's your personality. You're so outgoing and pushy.
Yeah, why waste it on real estate?
Yeah, why
waste it on real estate, right?
So how you say real estate? Yeah. Pushing numbers, you know?
And I was saying it before all the new laws came into effect, right? This has nothing to do with this. I was saying it way before. One has nothing to do with the other.
How's the regulation speaking of regulation in the city, how does that affect the restaurant business
Disaster.
in general? Disaster.
New York City is against business of any kind. Policy-wise. The policy is, if you run a business, let's make it very difficult for you because you are against the people, right? We're gonna take it from the business people and we're gonna share the wealth. Now, only problem is, I think Margaret Thatcher said it once, that there's not enough money by the rich people to carry the other people for too long. But this is the problem. New York City is a disaster. And this is another reason. From the minimum wage, right, that became like double pretty much from when we started Basil, it was 7.5, it's 15 an hour, right? Now that doesn't mean that it's just the minimum people, because whoever the mid-range person that was making 13 was very happy, right? Now he says, what do you mean? The simplest person makes 15, I want 25, etc., etc. Now you can't pass it on to the people because the people don't make the customer. He's not making all that money. You can't all of a sudden sell the fries for $30, right? It doesn't work. So it's a major, and you have every agency out there trying to get you. They don't work with you. They're trying to get you. So the hope is that maybe some politicians are more long-term, visionaries and a pro-business. Well, New York City, I don't know if you know, New York City's budget is $80 billion. Out of that, the budget for the allocation for small business is zero. Not $1,000, not $1 million, zero. That tells it all. So this is what needs to change quickly, because if you look at the statistics, the biggest negative migration is New York State. From all the states in the United States. It's a disaster in the making, and unless it changes rapidly, it's not going to be good.
Danny, we spoke before about B2B versus B2C, and B2C is more, PR is a much bigger issue and element you have to deal with live and instant. I know in the past you had some issues with Basil. For a business owner going through that, probably for you the first time dealing with a B2C crisis, so to say, PR, how would you tell someone to deal with a PR crisis for a small business that's forward-facing to a community?
It's very
more than once. I remember at the beginning, the guy said, not Jewish enough, but different things. And
correct.
How do you
There's a lot of extreme, right? There's a lot of fanatics.
And kosher.
Yes, correct.
People say, Basil, and what's the story with it?
They were demonstrating.
Right, but also with the kosher thing, I said, look at a guy with a white beard sitting as a mashgiach. He's probably the best mashgiach you'll find in the entire world. But with that, how do you deal with the PR when it's B2C, retail, community, especially Jewish world? Everyone's talking, blah, 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 they're all chatting, schmoozing. What do you suggest?
It's hard. It's very hard. I'm
sure you learned a lot through the process.
Correct. But at the end of the day, sometimes you need a lot of hashgacha pratis. You need a lot of, siyata d'shmaya. You do everything right and it just doesn't work, and the people are gonna complain. Yeah, but I believe that you gotta be.
I do appreciate your less goyish music since other people working there. So I do appreciate it.
But that's not even that. You have to.
I'm talking about the PR. How do you deal with PR with community? That's the question.
Whenever you do with fanatics, no matter what you do, by definition, fanatics are fanatics. They're looking for trouble. They're extremists, and no matter what, you will never appease them. So I believe at the end of the day, you have to believe in your integrity. You believe in a certain cause. You stick to it. First of all, don't zigzag. Do your thing if you believe in it. If you don't believe in it, and you're faking it, that's a whole different. If you believe that in your cause and what you're doing is right, you stick to it. You try. PR. Today the whole media changed and it's all about, social media, etc. But even then, how do you really get to the right people? Because, like Instagram, right? So Instagram, for instance, the meat restaurant, these are not Instagrammers. The kind of people that go there, they're older people, they don't necessarily, look and say yes. So they tell me their kids look and they'll show them, but that's marginal. That's not main. How do you get it? I think at the end of the day, the truth prevails.
Word of mouth. End of the day.
It's word of mouth. It's integrity. Do the right thing that you believe in it, and it could be other people don't. But don't fake it. Don't because somebody told you, so you're gonna zigzag and you're gonna change it and you're gonna become all of a sudden a shul or that's not what you are. Yes, I mean people complain all kinds of things. Oh, you, what do you mean? You welcome everybody. You're not allowed to break bread with Gentiles. I mean, come on. You live in Brooklyn, so go move into Basil. Who are you kidding? Why do you live here? You run into Gentiles every day. If it bothers you so much, why do you live here? Live in Me'asharim. There are options.
Monroe?
Monroe. I'm not saying Allah, he should keep Allah, he should do everything right. But be real about what you are. Have integrity. If you believe in it, no problem. So whatever you believe in it, stick to it. Don't zigzag. Continue doing it. And have belief and hope that you have enough siyata d'shmaya that people will see the truth. And people do. At the end of the day, most of the people, the majority of the people are good people. I mean, they're not looking for trouble. You'll always have extremists. You'll always have fanatics. It's noise. Filter it.
Did you think you would attract more Gentiles to your restaurant? I would say, you said bakery does. Did you think originally that Basil would attract more Gentiles than it does?
I didn't know for a fact, but at the end of the day, let's be real. First of all, the price point is higher. And in kosher, there's an hurry. The ingredients are more expensive.
And the restaurant isn't exactly on Fifth Avenue here.
And right, there's no real foot traffic, so it's a destination. And why would, unless you have something extraordinary to offer, why would somebody who's not Jewish want to go and hang out with a bunch of beards and yarmulkes? Also vibe-wise, it's not really. So in the bakery, it's a bakery. It's not a sit-down place. And the product is great. So get a great pastry, great coffee. They love it, no problem. They don't care. So I think but there's no problem. Why do you really need it? I'm not promoting, intermingling. And all I said back then, we welcome everybody because that's really not supposed to discriminate, right? So I was attacked because of that. But at the end of the day, only from Jews come there. No problem at all. It's great.
What's your favorite restaurant outside of your restaurants?
Home.
It's getting political here.
Yeah.
Outside of your restaurants, what's your favorite flavored restaurant?
There used to be, before, it used to be in the city, or anywhere in the world?
In the world.
Well, in the world there's more because Israel happened to have a little more of a variety.
What's your favorite, number one?
So Israel has, so there's not a bad place in Jerusalem called Angelica. What
about New York?
New York is like this. Till recently, I would go to two places only. And I know people said, what do you mean? I would go to there was a place, an Italian place called Tevere on 84th Street. It closed down recently. It was there for 30 years probably. The reason being, again, it's about integrity. They had old school Italian, but everything that was there had integrity. It was the decor, it was the music,
the service, the waiters are there forever, 20 years.
Same waiters. And it's true, you got the veal Milanese, but it was a good veal Milanese, it was tasty. You could cook like this at home, doesn't matter, but still, it was, what you see is what you get, what they portray is what it is. And there was something very nice about it. And the other one was La Marais. And so what do you mean? They mean that La Marais is a French bistro. It's not a fancy place. You have, these paper tablecloth, etc. You have the whole decor of the place, but it is what it is. You get a decent piece of meat and good fries, normal wine list, everything. What bothers me is when they start doing this total hodgepodge, when you have sushi and steaks and tacos and all over the place. That, to me, is difficult. So the only two places really that I went, and those are not probably the highest end places.
Do you
that people
get that
go
question
to.
a lot?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, I do. And people look at me, really? You go to La Marais? Yeah, I would go to La Marais over other places.
You ever see ideas in other restaurants and talk to your chef, say, what about this, what about that? Or the creativity usually comes from the
Not
chef?
in the kosher restaurants. But I look at a lot of non-kosher restaurants. They not always would be a good fit because some of them are really like most of the chefs' restaurants will have like tasting menus, like pre-fee tasting menus, just little samples. I don't think that's gonna fly too good in the kosher crowd. We have a variation of that in meat. So we have the feast. We have to, where you come in and you experiment. Like you'll taste stuff that you wouldn't necessarily order. I was like, I don't eat sweetbreads. Did you ever taste them? No. But it's gonna be in front of you. You might. Things like that. That's the kind of. So we have a variation of the. So I would get the general inspiration. Like any high-end non-kosher restaurant has basically chef's menu. Like you go in France, in a chef's restaurant, there's no menu. Every day there's a pre-feed. There's like 6, 7, 8, whatever. This is what we're serving today. What I mean, Tuesday, Chef Claude. That's what he said, right? But
you have a favorite wine, Danny?
Yeah.
What's your favorite wine? Or it depends what you're eating with.
Nah, listen. It's
What's your go-to wine? What do you buy by the case?
Oh, Yarden. Yarden in Iran. Higher end, I happen to think that I so far couldn't still develop the taste of French kosher wines. I don't taste non-kosher, so I can't tell you. Maybe the people, obviously French wines have something to say for themselves, right? But I don't know. I'm yet to see a great French wine to my taste. Israeli wines I like, California wines I like. So Yarden, it would be my go-to cases. Cabernet and Iran.
It's a blend. Reserve or anything? Just regular?
In Yarden, if you want, there's a Baron winery in Yarden, superb. Another very good Israeli. There's so many. It's like over 200 boutique wineries in Israel, but one that I recently tasted in the last few years, excellent. There's a winery called Tzorah, and they have.
Do you sell in your restaurant or not yet?
It's not mevushal, unfortunately. It's a whole different story. We could talk about a whole interview about non mevushal and hindquarter. That's a different interview, but which is mind boggles, but whatever. The Tzorah winery has a wine called Misty Hills. In my opinion,
what's the bottle retail?
I don't know. A lot. Like, I don't know, 100, expensive, but it's worth it. But that's the beauty about Yarden. Yarden retails in the 20s. You cannot beat the bang for the buck. You cannot beat the Yarden Cabernet Sauvignon or Iran by far. And anybody will tell you otherwise.
What's the most common question you get from people?
I get so many questions every day.
Is it like, what's your next restaurant? Is that the most common one or no?
Nah, I mean, I don't know. That I can't even. There's so many questions. People ask a lot of questions.
There's no most common.
There's no most common. They're all very common.
So on that topic, is there anything new coming up in the pipeline for the Basil Group?
We're opening more and more retail places for the bakery.
More locations.
Yeah, we're opening now a location in Williamsburg.
Nice.
And we're opening a location in Pomona. And we're looking at more, and we're looking at Upper West Side. We don't have a concrete location yet, but the idea is to have a whole bunch of those little places.
So you'll have a main commissary and then
we do. We just opened in the main commissary because we don't bake anymore in the bakery. It's like, I don't know.
So all those ovens are sitting there?
So all those ovens are sitting there. It's actually all moved to Williamsburg. We're like an industrial building. We do everything out there. No, well, but it's not. But that's not a retail place. So in other words, it doesn't matter.
Right,
it's not like I can move it because I don't need two customers to come there.
But you're building in the machinery there, right?
But the machinery is there. I know, but it's the problem is the location. Look, if the people are used to coming here and you have to move, they are not necessarily.
What about Lakewood, Danny?
Lakewood is probably one of the areas. I'm thinking, but I don't have anything concrete. I want to do like franchises. Really, if people want to run a little place, they'll take care of it. I'll supply them with everything. With the social media.
You want to do franchising?
Not charge them for the franchise, but they have to adhere to a certain standard. It's got to be. We'll show them the plans. It's got to be the product list is going to be a certain product list.
First released here, right? That you're doing franchises.
Correct.
Right here. Correct.
So if there's any takers and people are interested, we'll be very happy to work with them. All they have to do is run a clean place, smile, make a nice coffee. The rest will supply.
Is this your first video interview about your restaurants ever?
No, we did video interviews.
Not so in depth like this.
No, not so that. You're asking very good questions.
Good
I'm very
questions.
impressed. Very nice. You should do it for a living.
I actually grew up with Danny in Tannersville. As a little kid, I grew up in Tannersville. And the only families I knew were the Drizens. That's basically, because I grew up on Flatbush. So I didn't know there were any other Chabad people besides the Drizens.
That's right. That's right.
Great family in Baruch Hashem. We had great summers with them.
You still go to Tannersville?
Still
No?
go, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And the French fries are the most popular product till today.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. And it's a damn good French fry.
Thank you very, very much, Danny,
Thank
for your
you.
time.
Thank
I think
you.
we've been chasing you for about 6 months already.
I know, and I'm sorry about it. I just legitimately was like all over the place.
And I want to end off thanking Basil for bringing this whole new trend to this area. And we owe a lot of appreciation of the success of our art gallery. However, I want to say, in the beginning, we used to mooch customers off Danny, and now people, when they come to our gallery, say, where can we eat when we come to your gallery?
That's true. That's
so
true.
things, Baruch Hashem, have changed for us, but only has started because of Basil, and obviously all the other restaurants that followed after Danny took the plunge, decided to go a little edgy.
Leap of faith. Yeah.
Leap of faith, and now it's like, yeah, sure. Do you want to eat Crown Heights?
And thank you for your kind words, because not everybody, we're not taking it for granted. A lot of people, they just say, oh, great, whatever, but it's great. Thank you for noticing and appreciating it.
We can't help.
Thank you.
But this is the reality. Thank you so much, Danny.
Thank you.
And,
Keep it up.
Hope
Let's
to
do
hear
good things together.
1,000,000%.